All right. What is up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Lifting, Running, and Living with your favorite coaches, Kelly.
Hello.
Hello, and JK, that is me. We are kicking off episode number 38. So, per the usual, let's kick it off with updates. Kelly, why don't you let us know what's going on in your world these days?
I've got a lot of updates since we last recorded.
Yeah, bring it on.
But first I'll start with one I haven't listed. But yesterday, Saturday, for the folks who are listening this coming Friday, I co-hosted the On Your Marks, Get Set, Bake episode with Joy. So if you watch Great British Bake Off, that came out Sunday, you should listen. We went over Autumn Week. So...
All right. I'm just going to assume that people who are regular watchers of that show know what that means.
Yeah. Well, their
So I
podcast breaks down the Great British Baking Show episode every single week. Last week was Autumn Week. This will come out on Friday. I don't know what this week is, but it'll be the previous week's episode. So.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
congrats on the guest hosting role.
Thank you.
Branching
Claire
out.
was doing her conditional black belt test. So.
Yeah, that looked like almost a marathon or something of
That
of
looked
tests.
awful.
That was a lot. Yeah.
That's like 3 days straight. I mean, going to bed at like 2 a.m. would kill me alone.
She is quite the athlete.
She is.
For real. Like quite the
know.
athlete.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay, so other than that, if you listened to last episode, you knew that the week we were recording, I went to Seattle for work. We recorded it before my trip, so the trip has since passed. It was a whirlwind of 3 days. So I flew out Monday night, and okay, so I already had a pretty late flight. I was supposed to land at like 9 p.m. in Seattle, which, you know, for a lot of people isn't late, but for me it's late, especially because that's 10 p.m. Denver time. And at like 10 a.m., I went to check my flight. I don't know why, but it was like, your flight's delayed. It's not leaving for 45 minutes after expected. And I was like, oh no, is this going to be a thing? But it didn't get worse. Are you
talking about where it like, first it's 45, then it's an
then it
hour,
just keeps getting later.
then it's an hour and a
Yeah.
half. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah,
That's
so I was
fun.
worried I was going to get in really late. I mean, I got in late for me. I got to the hotel at like 11, which is...
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
That
Well,
is-
because
yeah.
we were staying near the Space Needle, which is north of Seattle, and Seattle-Tacoma Airport is very south of Seattle, so it was a 30-minute drive. Uber, I did not drive, but yeah. So, starting the trip off strong, and then I get to my hotel, and at 2 a.m., some little alarm goes off, scares the crap out of me. Yeah, it was really weird. Obviously, I'm staying alone in a hotel room. I haven't even met any of my coworkers. I don't know anyone.
And you haven't even unpacked and put stuff in the drawers.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if you listen to last episode, you know why that's funny. Anyways,
But there was some sort of alarm going off for an hour. So from 2 to 3 a.m. Yeah, I suspect that it was my neighbor's cell phone.
oh, that's unfortunate.
Walls were very thin, yeah. But it sounded kind of like an alarm where like someone is scanning the wrong card to the door. So I'm there, I'm just like, am I about to get murdered? It's like someone breaking in. Like, what's going on?
It's like the beeping.
Kinda, it was like beeping, but it was a two-tone beeping.
That's
I
really annoying.
don't know how to describe it, and I can't replicate it. But
It's really
like,
annoying.
it was really weird too, because I got up and like turned on the light and like walked around and tried to find it, but it wasn't going off. And then as soon as I got into bed and turned off the light, then it went off. And this happened like 3 times. And I was like, what is going on? Like,
Yikes.
it was wild. So, but luckily I had moved around my training for that week so that Tuesday, the next day, was going to be a rest day. Because I was like, who knows what time I'm going to get in. I don't want to have to like get up early, go run on a treadmill,
Yeah.
and then get ready. So I had that going for me. But yeah, the trip itself was good. It was really nice meeting everyone. And it was not as draining as I expected it to be as an introvert, which was interesting. but it was a lot of fun. We went to a hockey game. We went to see the Kraken, who actually were playing the Avalanche. And I'm not an Avalanche fan. They're like my second place team. Because for those who don't know, I didn't grow up here. So I'm a Washington Capitals fan.
Oh, yeah. I had to think for a second because I was like, Baltimore.
Yeah.
Baltimore. Okay. Yeah. That
Yeah,
makes
Baltimore
sense.
doesn't
That
have a team,
tracks.
but Washington. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Avs won, which was exciting for me, not exciting for my Seattle coworkers.
That's fair.
And the
That's
whole
totally
arena.
fair. You were in like you were in the suite of all suites though.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we were in a private box.
Bougie
It
with a
was.
capital I. Yeah.
It was the bougiest thing I've ever experienced. Yeah. They just, okay, so when we were going there, I stupidly didn't think the fact that I can't take a purse in. I had like a small bag that I use like as a purse.
Uh-huh.
And they were like, clear bags only. And I was like, I don't have a clear bag. She was like, you can't come in. So I had to walk back to my room, drop it off, and then walk back. So I got to the suite late. And then I saw the spread of food, and I thought that was going to be our food for the night.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they just kept bringing other stuff. And I was like, if I had known this, I would have made different food choices.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
I would have
it
brought
was-
like some Ziplocs.
I know. I was
They
like, where are the
said
to-go
clear
boxes?
bags. Yo. You said clear bags. Show up with some freezer bags. I'm taking this stuff home. That's
No.
100% me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, had I known.
Dang.
So that was really fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And we went to a ping pong bar the next night, which was interesting. I
nice.
didn't know that was a thing. So,
Yeah, I've man, I saw one of those. They have one in Chicago, or they had one at least when I was hanging out in Chicago not that long ago. And then I know I've seen them in Philly too. In Philly, because I went to my friend's wedding there, I think 2 years ago now. Yeah, I think it would be two summers ago or last summer. It's all blended together. No, it was last summer. But they have this place. It was like 24/7, so you could let yourself in. It was right on a corner, and it was all window, not all windows, but all glass, so you could see like what was going on and whatnot. It was right on the corner, like in downtown Philly, and yeah, you could just go in there and play like ping pong. It's kind of
Whoa.
different. Yeah, didn't do it, but it just looked like a very cool concept. I don't know.
yeah. I don't know when ping pong took off, but it did.
I mean, it's kind of
So.
cool. I like it.
Yeah. Let's see what else. I ate as much seafood as I could because being landlocked, like you have to when you're on the
Yeah.
coast.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
I had the best crab roll of my life.
Dang. You're really living it up.
You know, when the company is paying for things, you got to live it up.
That's fair. You want to make sure they get their money's worth, you know?
Yeah.
Hit that expense report.
I know. Yeah. Well, funny about my expense report. So I have $250 a month is my limit on my company card. And by the time I finished my lunch, we went to the airport early on Thursday, a couple of us, because we had like afternoon flights, but we didn't want to find lunch in Seattle and be lugging around our luggage.
Yeah.
So we went to the airport to eat. By the end of that lunch, I had 10 cents left from my limit.
Dang.
Yeah.
See,
was-
should have brought the Ziplocs to the game. You would have had
know.
leftovers and been just fine.
Seriously, yeah. It was those Uber rides. They were quite
Yeah, I
costly
can
to
see
get.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, that was until Thursday, and I ended up running on. I sent you a picture from the treadmill.
Yes, that scenic view from the treadmill.
Yeah. The
It's pretty
treadmills
solid.
were facing the walls. The gym did look exactly as pictured, which was impressive.
Big W for the gym.
Mm-hmm. And the treadmills were ones where you could choose a course. So that was nice. I did have something to look at, but yeah, I had to run on the treadmill for 2 days. And then that weekend when I got back, I had my 5K. So it was just a hectic week. A
Yeah,
lot
you've
going
been
on.
busy.
Yeah, I'm ready to not be busy.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And how'd the 5K go?
It was like okay. I mean, on
Okay.
paper it went well, I guess. I wanted
Okay.
to run faster.
Ah,
Yeah. But it's faster than all of my other 5Ks at altitude. So, like, that's good. But it did not reach my expectations.
Yeah, you definitely don't seem satisfied. Like
No, I wasn't.
you're not giving satisfied vibes right now. Like at all.
No. Well, okay, so I was hoping to run closer to like 24, low 24 minutes.
Okay.
Like if I was having the best day ever, I think I can break 24 at altitude. And for reference, for anyone who doesn't listen or hasn't listened, in San Diego, I've run like 24:04. So at sea level.
Right.
But I've been training for this pretty much all summer. And so like in workouts, I can run 24-minute pace. Like I've done it for 5x1K, which indicates that like in theory I should be able to do it for a 5K. Obviously it's different without the breaks that you have within a workout.
Right. Yeah.
But still, like I'm capable of running that pace for a 5K. I mean, I already knew that at sea level. So I think I just expected to run faster, but I also knew this is a new course and I didn't know how it would run in a race. And it was our last like 80-degree day here, which was not great for a late October race. But I have another one in 2 weeks, next Saturday. The 16th.
Similar altitude, elevation, or whatnot.
Same course, yeah.
Oh, same exact course.
Same exact course, yeah.
Oh,
that's partially why I
okay.
chose it, so I could like use the first one to get intel, figure out how it's going to feel. Cause
Intel.
yeah,
Lord have mercy. Covert operations.
yeah.
That's where you start. That's your running nickname. Covert. Covert klutz.
The week before the race, I did go do a run down there just to do course recon to see, because it looks
recon.
Yeah.
This is
you
serious.
gotta get the intel before you're there. Set yourself up. But apparently I didn't do a good enough job. I didn't look well enough at like the elevation. And before anyone yells at me, because it's like, it's pretty flat. Like I'm not going to claim there's hills, but there are hills. So the first mile is like slight incline, but it's not like a hilly course. It's not like Boston, you know?
Gotcha.
But the first mile is slight incline. And I think I just went out a little too fast for going slightly uphill. And then in the second mile, it like goes downhill for a bit. And then there's another incline that you can totally feel. And in that mile, I just like slowed down a little too much. So I think I just need to pace better for the next one. And it won't be as hot, hopefully, unless, granted, it could be too cold. Because it is supposed to snow this week, so it'll be a crapshoot for the next race. But
yeah, your weather there seems wild. I thought like Central Illinois was like just confused, like couldn't make a decision. But man, I've seen people post pictures of snow, and then all of a sudden it's like sunny and beautiful, and just all over the place there.
Yeah,
seems like.
Yeah, it's wild. So we'll see what happens on the 16th. But yeah, it was overall it was fun because I got a bunch of my friends to do it, so we all suffered together. And I did get second in my age group after the first place in my age group got bumped up because she won first place overall.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Congrats.
I got a gift card to a running store.
Hey. So. All right.
Yeah. So I think that was that week. There's not really much from, I know, this past week, except for Ty has started to overhead press, which is very exciting.
Why is this very exciting?
I'm hoping it's just one little step in the door to full on lifting.
Gotcha. Okay. You keep us updated on how it's going.
He saw a pro climber do like a collab video with gym bro. I don't know if he's a bodybuilder or power lifter or what kind of gym bro he is.
Okay.
He's very strong though. So like he was trying climbing and then he made the climber do some like overhead pressing was one of the things. I like stuff like that. I dig stuff like that a lot. Like the crossover or the collab. Yeah, the collab, the crossover. I like stuff like that. That's pretty cool. I'll have to send you the video. I'll post it. I'll link it for anyone who's interested.
How long is it?
It's not super. I'm like maybe 20 minutes, maybe 15.
I gotta be honest, Kelly. I might not watch it, but anyway.
That's fair. I'll send it to you anyway.
Okay.
But anyway,
appreciate it.
It was like a 1 rep max overhead press, and Yeah, I know.
That's kind of a
It's brutal.
it's kind of a risky thing to do a collab on, like a crossover on.
That was only one piece of it. They did like warm up to it,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay. Anyways,
I feel you.
all right. Yeah.
It's
It's like, let's do our 1 rep max deadlift. Like, why not?
Yeah. But the pro climber got up to 132, I believe it was.
Do you know, like, is there any reference to, like, their body weight or anything like that?
I want to say he's 70 kilograms. I think he said that in a different video, which is what, 150 something, 160?
Yeah, somewhere a little, I think that's a little under 150. I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, that's pretty.
Anyway, around there.
This times 2.2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Still pretty
Anyway.
freaking strong.
Yeah. So then Tyler's
Yeah.
like, I want to see if I can beat him. And
Okay.
I had the same reaction as you. I was like, you should really, like, you've never done this 1 rep max. You should warm up. Like, he was trying to make some big leaps. And I was like, how about we do smaller ones? just to be safe.
So, with respect to whether or not Ty wants numbers shared or whatnot, is he going for like a certain percentage of body weight?
No, he just wants to beat that raw number.
Okay.
I think they're comparable in body weight.
Oh, okay.
He might be a little heavier,
Gotcha. Okay.
but yeah.
A little more thick, you mean?
Yeah, I had to,
That's with 2 C's, by the way. That's how we spell it. Just so you know. That's the official spelling.
thank you for that.
Thick. No problem. Sometimes we throw in a 3rd C.
A 3rd C.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just saying.
Okay.
Anyways.
I
You're
did
like,
have
what
to.
is your problem?
I had to prevent him from doing a push press. He really wanted to use his legs, and I was like, "You're not allowed. You're not allowed. It's a strict one. Arms only."
If he has interest in really like going down this rabbit hole of the strict press, Starting Strength is a fantastic resource.
Oh.
Yeah, for all things form. They used to have some progressions too for different lifts. So Starting Strength is a very, very solid resource for that.
I'll pass it
and that's
along.
passing that on to anybody who's particularly like in the main lifts, like squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press. If you're looking for just very specific, methodical protocols and form tips and stuff like that. I haven't looked at their page or their YouTube channel in quite some time, and also they've been like at it for years. I think it's like, is it Mark Ripito? Don't quote me on that. But anyways, Starting Strength is a good reference to use.
All
Anyways,
right. Well, I'll check
Cool.
in with him in a couple weeks, see if the feeling has passed or not.
yeah. Tell him to keep those shoulders warm though and limber. Work on some mobility there.
No.
Lord
Yeah.
have mercy. All right.
Yeah. So that's. I mean, I could keep going on, but that's most of it.
Okay. That's fair. Anything else update wise though? Or is that at the Haps?
Well, I took a week off of strength when I was in Seattle because I just could not fit it in.
Yeah.
And
That's
then like the race was Sunday, and I was planning to lift that afternoon, and I was just straight dead.
That's funny.
Yeah, and now it's like I got in 2 lifts. Oh, I did miss an update. After the race, and I think running on a treadmill in Seattle and walking around Seattle in my Vans, we did a lot of walking in Seattle. Like, we walked from the hotel to WeWork, which was like 1.3 miles one way, and we just like went back and forth a couple times a day. But now my left plantar fascia is bothering me again, so it's a true bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of 3 days off running.
Oh, okay. On a scale of 1 being like not at all to 10 being I'm on WebMD and think that I might need amputation, like how concerned are you right now?
I'm not super concerned because I've dealt with this before, but I'm more concerned. Well, I guess I should preface this with throughout training it comes on and off. Like it'll bother me on and off, but it's usually not, it doesn't linger.
Yeah.
It lingered after the race, and then like even with just like walking the next day, and then my run on Tuesday, it like immediately came back and I felt it the whole run. And normally once I warm up in the run, it goes away. So then I was like, ugh, I should probably like take it easy this week. So
Okay. All right.
yep, annoying.
Well, cool. Yeah. It's all right.
I know I was
All
trying
right.
to be smart now so that I don't have to take months off later.
Yeah. That's a good pro tip there. It's
Yeah.
like instead of trying to push it, it's like try to live to run another day here
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you know, this time last year I was injured, and then I could
Right.
full send on lifting. So
Well, there
it
you
is
go.
my favorite time of year for the lifting. Anyway, what's up?
All
with
right.
you?
I've really got one main one. Maybe I'll think of one other one. So at the time that we're recording this on Sunday, November 3rd. So we've gone through the time change with the clocks and all that good stuff.
Yep.
So for some may remember that I talked about in the month of October with my one-on-one client group, I will usually throw out some sort of a challenge each month. So our challenge or focus area for the month of October, we called it Clocktober. Or really, I called it Clocktober, and they were just like, okay, cool. So Clocktober, the challenge and focus there was to be intentional about setting a bedtime each day. So for reference or for some context, what I try to do is pick something in the area of either that has to do with nutrition, sleep, low intensity movement, recovery, or mindset, like something around there as in relation to how it supports exercise. So how it supports training and all that stuff. So recovery and getting good sleep is something that's like a constant subject that's talked about. It kind of goes through waves, like ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
For sure, with the population that I serve the most. So for Clocktober, that was all about like each day, the intention was that you set a bedtime by a certain time each day. I think it was like 10 o'clock or something like that you've set a bedtime for that night. So it was, it went pretty well for me. I think that out of the month of October, I want to say there were maybe 6 or 7 days that I didn't follow through on setting the bedtime. And then the goal was you set the bedtime and then you're in bed. Doesn't mean you have to be asleep, but you're in bed no later than 20 minutes after the bedtime that you set. So for example, for me, most of the time I was setting it at like 9:30, I think, for the most part. So basically it was like between 9:30 and 9:50, just on average was the general goal. So I did go back and I actually sent this to my coach. So I went back and I looked for the month of October. This was tracked on my Garmin. For the month of October, my average sleep duration was 6.5 hours, which was actually an improvement from where it's been. Yeah. So 6.5 hours average improvement, or 6.5 hours, excuse me, average sleep duration. My average bedtime was 9:49 p.m.
Okay.
So that was pretty solid for me. And then my average wake up time was 4:26 a.m., which was also pretty solid for me.
Oh my God.
So in comparison though, so October, 6.5 hours, September, 6 hours and 13 minutes. And then in August, it was 6 hours and 4 minutes. So I've had some steady, I've had some
Yeah.
steady improvement
That's
over
good.
the 3-month time frame. And then for average bedtime, so for October, I finished at 9:49 p.m. The month before that, it was 9:58 p.m.
Oh,
And the month before that, it was 10:06 p.m.
dang.
So yeah, when you go back and look at it, it's pretty much like there's been improvement across the board. So over the last because that would be August, September, October. So over the last 3 months, I have improved my sleep from 6 hours and 4 minutes to 6 hours and 29 minutes. So
Nice.
a little bit extra. Yeah. Now my wake up times, it's funny because my wake up times have gotten a little bit later also with that. So it went from 4:15 a.m. to 4:21 a.m. to 4:26 a.m. So now the month of November, although we'll have a different focus area, and I actually haven't even, full transparency, I haven't even identified that. I'll pop something off tomorrow, like Monday in my group.
Yeah.
For the month of November, my expectation is that that's going to be a bit different. I'm still going to focus on being intentional about setting a bedtime, but as I was telling Kelly before we hit record, the time change, it legit takes me two weeks on the short side, typically up to 3 weeks to like get with the program, just because I'm so used to, like, my body's so used to, okay, now it's time to wind down and now it's time to get up. And then, so we shall see. Have I ever told you, like, that's basically how I figured out how to finally just get consistent with getting up earlier in the morning, was ignoring the time change. Yeah.
You mentioned this last time change.
Yeah. I'm telling you, that's the trick. Like, that's the key, is basically ignore when the clock changes and you're supposed to get like that extra hour. It's like, no, just get up, because your body's already used to like getting up. So just get up. The going to bed part kind of sucks, but after a while you get used to it and you start rolling. Mm-hmm. So
I don't subscribe to that, but
I understand that. I totally understand that.
I've been feeling like I need 9 hours of sleep lately, so last night was like nice to actually have the 9 hours to get it.
Yeah, that's one of those things that is still, regardless of the time that I go to bed, typically, and this has actually been an improvement over a few years. Like typically, like when my sleep is really, really good, 6.5 to maybe 7 on average, like over a few weeks, that's actually really good. So it's like even in times where I go to bed earlier, then I just wake up earlier. Like it's still like at that, somewhere between that 6 to 7 hour mark, like somewhere around there, I'm still going to wake up earlier. So it just it hasn't changed. But my sleep, like hygiene and sleep quality, my HRV has continued to improve over the last few months and whatnot. So that's all still going really well. And then the other, I guess, another update that's related to that, I'll be in the midst of making adjustments to my training schedule, just trying to get, basically going into a different season, like literally a different season. So Mace made the basketball team for his junior high school. Exciting. And pretty pumped for him. And they have practice two of the days out of the week that they practice. The practices are at 6:30 a.m. So,
dang.
Yeah. So, he and I actually talked about it, because I'm going to, like, my plan is take him to the 6:30 a.m. practices, because I'm up usually anyway. It's just, I'm like, well, would I be getting up earlier to work out so that I can make sure that I'm for sure home in time to then like take him, or do I go train afterwards? And the thing is, like, that's probably the route I'm going to go, is train afterwards. So still get up early in the morning, do some work for the training business and all that stuff, and just do that first thing in the morning, then take him to practice, and then go to the gym, and then head out to work on the days that I need to go in. But man, working out at like 6:45, 7 a.m. right now, after the first week, it feels like working out at 5 p.m. to me.
I believe that.
I'm not, man.
It's very different.
Yeah, it sure is, because it feels like the day, it feels like I'm getting like a late start in the day or something.
Yeah.
Like warming up, even I realize it's been a week and a half at this point, so it hasn't even been that long, but just even warming up, like, feels like it takes longer. Takes
Yeah.
longer to like get in the groove with the lifts and the ramp up sets, and yeah, so just trying to get used to that. I'm just granting myself some grace for the month of November. So like you got to deal with the time change, and then also like potentially changing like the time of the workouts, and just the energy just feels different. I like walking into the gym like still kind of half-ish awake, and then like slowly ramping up versus like I've already been awake for 2 hours
Yeah.
and then going in. Like I don't know. But much respect to the people who work out after work. I don't get it. Ooh, it's tough.
I don't get doing that and having to go to the gym.
Oh.
Because obviously, like, when I lift, it's after work, but
Yeah.
I just walk to my garage where I know I'm going to
Yeah.
be alone. I can play the music I want. I can stop whenever. I mean, you can at the gym too, but I know what I want to be available will be available.
I thought through that as an option too, potentially, was training at home. Those couple of days, like just having, because the Tuesday, because typically it seems like it's going to be Tuesdays and Fridays that he would have practice earlier in the morning.
Okay.
And those are 2 days where like Friday for me is typically a leg day. And then Tuesday is typically like a cardio day, or just like a real flexible day. Just kind of, I can do whatever. So I could potentially, the leg day, I don't know so much if I would really want my coach to adjust that so it could be done at home, because I like to, there's like a leg press on that day, and there's subs that I can make, and also it's like, I really like to ball out on a leg day. So I don't know. So we'll see. But yeah, those are my updates. So that's what we got going on. You want to jump into these two little topics that we've got here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you listen to last episode, we were going to talk about this and we ran out of time. But we're going to talk a little bit about the Peter Attia lawsuit against Oura Ring. So
yeah,
you brought this to my attention. You want
I
to give us an
did.
overview?
Yeah, I did. And now
I
it's
don't
been a
follow
while.
Peter Attia, but
So
I know of him.
general description, and now that I think about it, I think in the not most recent episode, maybe 2 episodes back on my podcast, I even brought him up just in reference to something else that I was talking about. But just generally physician and longevity expert. Let's just call him that. So this came across my feed based on a YouTube video. So there's a YouTube video that said something about like the Peter Attia lawsuit against Oura Ring. And I, like many probably natural humans, like I fell for the clickbait, because I was like, "Ooh, he's suing Oura Ring," like, thinking
what's
like
the
maybe,
tea?
yeah. I was thinking maybe there was some like real spicy story about like he was tired of the misinformation or something like that. Even though Oura Ring has a pretty solid reputation in the field, I was thinking, oh, okay, well maybe there's something he discovered, or maybe they took some patented technology that he was doing, because I know Oura Ring and Samsung. I don't know who did or has or is suing who, but I think Oura and Samsung are in a lawsuit. I should fact check that real quick.
So many lawsuits.
I did just do a quick fact check.
Okay.
If they have sued that, and Oura has not officially taken legal action against Samsung, but Samsung is suing Oura to prevent Oura from suing Samsung.
Whoa. Wait,
Samsung.
say that again?
Yeah. Yeah. Samsung. Okay.
Okay.
Oura has not officially taken legal action against Samsung,
Okay.
but Samsung is suing Oura to prevent Oura from suing Samsung.
Okay.
Samsung filed a preemptive lawsuit in California court to ask the court to declare that its Galaxy Ring does not infringe on Oura's patents. So basically, Samsung is concerned that Oura is going to sue them because they came out with the Galaxy Ring. So they're concerned that they're going to get sued for patent infringement because it has a lot of the same features, and Oura Ring has sued competitors in the past.
Okay. So they sue them
Samsung
first.
claims that Oura has a pattern of suing competitors over features that are common to most smart rings, such as sensors, electronics, batteries, and score-based summaries. Okay. Okay. So I'm not completely crazy. So basically, yeah, Samsung filed a lawsuit preemptively to be like, yo, just in case, can you make sure that they know you can't sue us?
You know what this reminds me of?
No, I don't, but you should tell me.
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
One of my previous jobs, I won't say which, someone I worked with,
Dairy Queen.
it
is Dairy Queen.
was really like not doing their job and
Okay.
stuff. And like
This is
made
the
some
tea.
questionable comments to one of my other coworkers. And to prevent this other coworker from getting them fired, they went to HR first so that the other person couldn't go to HR because then it looks like retaliation kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I can't go into specifics.
Yeah. Okay.
But-
I see. I mean, I see it. I see where you're coming from. It's kind of like you report it it's like a CYA move.
Oh, what?
Cover your assets.
Oh, yes.
And it's not assets, but, you know.
Yeah, but this person was very
Still trying
in
to
the
get into
wrong, so
heaven
it
at
was
some
an
point.
interesting choice.
That's
And it was
yeah.
it was not the first time they had done this. So,
That they had gone to HR in advance
yeah.
or that the other person had. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so
Interesting. Okay.
But anyway.
So yeah. Anyways, we kind of branched off, but Oura Ring, dang, they are all up in the legal action. So
Kind of
what
makes
it
sense.
yeah, what it seems like it comes down to though is that Attia is suing Oura Ring, saying that they have not followed through on promised stock options as part of his advisory role. And if I remember correctly, and there's always, folks, there's always at least a 50% chance that I don't remember something correctly. Just so you're aware. Okay? So, if you're like, JK, you're wrong, miss me with that. I already said that I probably don't remember. But in the rare occasion that I do remember correctly, I think that he was in some sort of agreement and then either ownership changed or something changed, and basically the newer owners or management or board or however the story goes, like whoever's in charge, basically reneged on that particular deal. So there were where it becomes, I guess, controversial for people who have the additional time to really get into this, is it becomes controversial because it relates back to some previous conversation that we've had about people having sponsorships. And while I'm not like a super close follower of Peter Attia at all, I'm aware, I see some snippets on Instagram of different podcasts that he's on and stuff like that. I didn't necessarily know that there was like an actual contractual relationship there.
Yeah, me neither.
So, yeah, what it just brings back into the conversation is like you can never know who really is in bed with who. Because if I possibly remember this like slightly correctly, part of his agreement with Oura Ring was like doing content that referenced Oura Ring, or at least some of those features. Like there's all sorts of different stipulations that these folks get into in order to fulfill the obligation that they have to that particular company. And I just think it can potentially be a really good reminder that even if something isn't glaring, like, the beginning of a podcast is like, this podcast is brought to you by such and such. Like it may not even be that visible that somebody is in a brand deal with a brand. Like sometimes it can just be like, hey, 2 out of your next 10 Instagram posts, we just need you to happen to be holding this particular water bottle or whatever
Yeah.
it may be. I just don't know.
Product placement.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like product placement, just all sorts of things. And then I start to think about like with a device like the Oura Ring and what it tracks and what it doesn't track and what's important and what's not important. Like that's got to, I mean, he's a human just like everybody else. Like that's got to be kind of in the back of your mind when someone's like, well, how important, does it really matter if I have a tracker? Like, how important is it really to track my sleep? And, how can the answer not be influenced by a financial stake that you have in another company? So I don't know. Those are just my thoughts that the overall, one of the overall big takeaways here is it's just another reminder that remember that game, like the Kevin Bacon game, like 6 Degrees of Separation or whatever? Have you ever heard about that?
Yeah.
Where it was like you can name somebody and like somehow you can link them back to Kevin Bacon. I think that's just becoming the thing now, is somehow you can link people like in the fitness and wellness and whatever space. It's just getting tough to figure out like where the compensation is coming from,
Yeah, and like what their actual opinion is and if you can trust it, or if it's just like them trying to get you to buy something because they profit off of it.
Yeah. And I would like to think that for many of these folks, the answer lies somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Is what I would like to think, like that the answer is somewhere in there. Cause I think about, for example, let's say like you remember when you were first talking about the app that you're testing or the app that you're using, would it be considered that you're testing it or not really?
The strength app?
Yeah. Do you provide feedback and all that stuff for that, or?
I'll provide feedback. Yeah. But
yeah,
I'm
okay.
a user. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a user, and in our discussion, you talked about like the relationship to the person who basically created that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something you're open about. And then, as we talk about it, I think it's just natural for you to remind folks of that.
Yeah.
And okay, that's there. It's very transparent. And also, I think that you and I are pretty similar in that we almost like overexpose any sort of connection that we may have to something. Like it probably to the it's like the like to the point where it's just like, okay, we like the audience could do the disclaimers for you guys at this point. Like we get it. Like, do you just have an opinion and just go? Like honestly. And I think it's just I'll speak for myself. It's because I've just come across too often cases where somebody is not upfront about something. Because I have, for example, like I have relationships with particular people in the fitness and especially in the nutrition space where I want to be open and transparent about the relationships that I have, and also have the person that's asking me for a recommendation for a nutrition coach also understand that the relationships that I have are because those people are fully aware that I also give a very transparent opinion about whether or not I think that a certain person or a certain company that I may have a personal relationship would or would not be a good fit for that individual, and why.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that I think, I certainly can't relate to somebody on Peter Attia's level from a compensation and financial standpoint. It's easy for us, to say
no stakes.
Well, here's what exactly. Yeah. Like we would never do that. I'm not even going to say that. I'm just saying like, man, it'd be really cool if there was some sort of like just constant like disclaimer or something that announced like any sort of affiliations and partnerships.
Yeah, I feel like there does need to be more transparency because like that YouTube video that you saw that's linked to this, I'll link it in the show notes, I thought was very interesting because they bring up other brands. Like AG1 is the one that we see it with the most. Like they pay influencers, podcasters a lot of money to market AG1.
Yeah.
And like they make a pretty penny every time someone signs up with their link. So, and like there's a handful of studies at least out right now that says like AG1 doesn't really do anything. So
right.
I feel really conflicted with something like that, especially with like someone of like Huberman's level. It's like, I know you're making so much off of this. And also it's like, I don't think his area of expertise, because he's like a neuro person, right? So I think the video brought this all up. Like these aren't my original thoughts, but it's just, it's hard to know because you're like, oh, well, he's a neuroscientist, really smart. If he's saying something is legit, it must be legit. But it's like, no, he's also getting millions of dollars from this. He wants you to sign up for them. They, especially for AG1, from what this video said, is it's not just like a lot of them, you buy it once, they get the kickback. AG1 is like every month you pay for it, they get the kickback. So
right.
Their incentive to keep you buying that product that realistically probably doesn't do much for you, it's just very expensive and green, is like very high. And then it's mixed with people
it's just very
who
expensive and green.
It is. And I've used it before and I didn't notice the difference. So I can speak from personal experience there. But yeah, that's mixed with people who have like these big followings and big reputations, and like they use their expertise in one area to tout themselves. They don't like tout themselves as an expert in the other area, but it's kind of understood. Like, oh, I trust you over here, so if you're saying something over here, I'm going to trust that too, you know?
Yeah. And in the same, that's one of the tough things though, because in the same vein, it doesn't automatically mean that person, any financial compensation that they get or any level that they reach of external financial success based on a brand partnership, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't actually believe in that product, or that product isn't actually helpful or useful. You know, like I've got friends that are in the industry who have really good brand partnership deals based on very successful podcasts that they have, based on very successful coaching companies that they have. And they, like, I know them to be genuine people, and I know them to be people who believe in it. And I also am all about, like, you know, if you're a business owner, especially if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're like a person who is the sole, like, you're responsible for your company, you're responsible for your coaching company, whatever it may be, like, get your money. Like, I think that coaches should be paid for what they do. And coaching, just like PS, like coaching generally, or let me say like personal training, like all that stuff, it's not like right at the get-go, like it's not like super, super lucrative right from the get-go at all. It takes like some time and some effort and some consistency and a little bit of being prepared for like the opportunity when the quote unquote luck comes your way, because you also got to be prepared to like actually take advantage of it when it comes your way. So when you have like a little bit of a kickback that you can get from a company, just for simply like mentioning it or wearing the product, like t-shirts, whatever it might be, that can match the value of a client who's going to be with you for a year. And that can make a lot of difference. So my intention isn't to come across as like hating on the thing. I just, man, I like how YouTube made that change. And I think it's been a couple of years at least now where they require that it's identified if there's a paid advertisement or paid sponsorship in there. I like that now, because back to like the product placement thing, I remember before it was like rampant. Like it's like, you know, they get ready with me and they just happen to use like the Sleep Number bed, and they happen to use AG1, and they happen to use, you know what I mean? So now it's more apparent that there's financial incentive for the influencing, whereas before it was like you didn't know that you were actually being influenced. You just happened to notice those things. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to what we were saying, whatever episode that was, where we talked about coaches with sponsorships is
Yeah.
like, just because someone does have a sponsorship doesn't mean that, like, just like you said, they don't believe in it, but it can be telling if the first time you hear someone talk about a product is when they're getting paid to talk about it versus like were they using it before kind of thing, or like did they use it for a period of time before they started promoting it, because sometimes companies don't let you like try something out before they want you to talk about it, and that can be a little shady in my mind depending on the product.
That's definitely sketchy.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if you're paying someone to talk about it, they should try it and be able to give their honest feedback, I think. So yeah, those
Agreed.
are some things to keep in mind out there in the wild.
All right. All good on that one?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's finish things out with getting into a lifting topic. So,
Lifting.
yeah. I always like it when you have a theme song. Wayne's
wasn't a
World. Yeah. I think the original was Listen to Your Body.
Listen to your body. Yeah.
That was the original. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see here. So there was a study that was done where researchers wanted to see how lifting light versus heavy weights affects short-term fatigue, specifically in people who are already trained. And generally, all this is going to be coming from my perspective. Okay. So
Yes.
if somebody else looks at it and like, what I took away is that they were trying to figure out like X, and you're saying Y. Totally understand. So what I was interested in getting from this particular study is some point of view on which one was better. Which one did they feel like was better when training towards failure? Is it lift the light weights for the number of reps that you need to get to approach failure, or lift heavier weights for the number of reps that you need to get to failure? So one thing that I really like about this particular type of experiment, I don't love this experiment itself, number one, because they used 5 dudes and that was it. And also,
that was it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was 5 dudes. 5 dudes, and I think they were in the range of like 22-ish years old. Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Howbeiver, as my grandfather
Classic.
used to say.
Yes.
Howbeiver, what we don't know is we don't know the history we don't know any context behind the study. We don't know, because for folks that may not be aware, studies like require funding, and funding may not always be super readily available for people. So just as a heads up. So what I enjoy about a study like this, though, is that regardless of how they got there, there was still a focus on training within that, like, say, 1 or so reps away from failure. Like, they were still training towards fatigue. So still trying to get to the same result and identifying different ways to get there, and really just assessing, okay, what was the effect if you used lighter weights to get to that fatigue point versus using heavier weights to get to that fatigue point. Concurrent with that, when you use the lighter weights, you're going to need to do more reps to get to that point. If you use heavier weights, you don't need to use as many reps to get to that point. This goes back to 2 episodes ago where we talked about the principles of hypertrophy and muscle building. Was it 2 to 3 episodes ago? Somewhere around
That was 2
there.
episodes ago, yeah.
Okay, where we talked about that. Okay, so basically researchers, they wanted to see how lifting light versus heavy weights affects short-term fatigue in people who are already trained. So as far as who participated, 5 young trained men completed the workouts. So they followed different types of bench press routines, basically. So they used the bench press as their lift. So they either used what they considered light, which would be 50% of their 1 rep max, or they went heavy, which was considered 85% of their max for
All
the
right.
weights. Okay.
Cool.
So the way that the workouts were organized, each participant, what they did was they did 6 different workout protocols with equal overall workout volume. So some protocols involved where you were lifting to complete muscle exhaustion, while others had like fewer reps, or they had like what's called like cluster sets or cluster reps, where you do like a certain number of reps, you rest, and then go back and do a certain number of reps. Like you continued to do that, still getting to that same level though, but it's a matter of basically, let's say that I've got a 200-pound 1 rep max bench press. So then 85% of that, I can't do math. So 85% of that for one group.
170.
Yeah. So 85% of that versus 100 pounds for the other group. I picked 200.
Why didn't you
'cause
choose 100?
I don't know. Because I'm not that smart sometimes. All right. I lift weights. So that's basically what they did. That's how they organized it. And so what they measured after each workout, what they measured was changes in mechanical performance. So basically how well the body moved afterwards, muscle soreness, and then lactate levels. They actually measured too.
Oh,
So that's what
lactate
typically will
levels.
build up during intense exercise. You're like, ooh, lactate. So they did it right after the session. Then again 24 hours later,
Okay.
and then again 48 hours later.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
So these are like the main findings. Let's see. And I think I pulled these notes for the main findings. Here we go. Okay. So there was higher fatigue with the exhaustion protocols. So the workouts that were done until complete exhaustion, especially those with the heavier weights, led to the most significant immediate fatigue. This was even noticeable in the body's mechanical performance. That's worded kind of weird, but okay. When sets, so rest or lower reps reduced the amount of fatigue. So when the sets were reduced to half of the max reps or included rest breaks, participants experienced less fatigue and recovered more quickly if they used the lower reps. Then this is like a big finding. Individual differences matter. Go figure.
Shocking.
So, yeah, fatigue levels varied between individuals. Factors like personal strength levels and then how the participants felt about the workout, so their perception influenced the differences. So the overall takeaway in the summary, like the overall takeaway is for people training with weights, especially if they want to avoid extreme fatigue, reducing the reps or adding brief rests can manage tiredness and keep energy levels steadier. That was just like a brief, like a little summary that I found as far as the main findings and the practical takeaway. I will tell you what really, really stood out to me was that the neuromuscular and also what they're calling the perceptual, so in layman's terms, like the perceived failure was higher in, what's that?
Fatigue.
Perceived
said
fatigue.
failure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Perceived. Thank you. Slay, Kelly.
I know.
So the neuromuscular fatigue and the perceptual fatigue was higher following the program where you did lighter weights to higher reps than it was using heavier weight with lower reps.
Yep.
To me, personally, I'm on board with that. Like that totally tracks.
Two same.
Yeah, totally tracks. So
discussed
in
this.
layman's terms, like an example of that would be if Kelly and I are doing the same, have the same goal. The same goal is for us to train to a certain level of failure, a certain level of fatigue. Like we only stop once we hit that level of fatigue. Kelly would prefer to do that with heavier weights and a lower number of reps. I would prefer to do it with lighter weights and twice the reps in order to get there. And what they're basically saying is in my particular group, my perceived fatigue was higher and also my neuromuscular fatigue was higher. So basically, I had more difficulty recovering from the session, and I just thought, like I felt like my perception was that my workout was a lot harder. It was very difficult for me.
Yeah.
So interesting.
It makes sense to me. I feel like we talked about this before. This is basically like the idea behind runners lifting heavy and like going more towards like heavier during times of like high fatigue in your running, because they neuromuscularly are fatiguing. But like kind of what this is saying, if you were to do, instead 15 reps of a bunch of unilateral exercises, that would be more fatiguing than just doing like a handful of heavy deadlifts and squats. But like for a lot of runners specifically, they think that like lifting heavy is going to make you so tired for your running. But like, but
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. A lot of what I've experienced, I've heard from people when people say that like lifting makes them too sore for running. If you get into it, a lot of it's like, well, I did like, a lot of lunges, a lot of Bulgarians, and I'm like, yeah, they're super tiring. And if you don't do them, they'll make you super sore. Not that like, doing a heavy deadlift isn't going to make you sore if you haven't done it. But I've always found that, if I'm doing like sets of 3 for a heavy deadlift, much easier to recover from than sets of 15 each Bulgarians with some weight,
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah. So
it's funny that you even bring up the example of the Bulgarians. So in my current program right now, Jeff has rear foot elevated split squats, where also the front heel is elevated because we're trying to get more of a quad focus. So
I've
those
seen that on your story.
Yeah. So for those of I post those like pretty regularly. That's a side note I actually want to bring up too. Is posting the same exercises regularly. But right now the variation that we're doing is we're doing a 1.5 rep. So I would squat all the way down, then come up about halfway, which is just like a little bit above parallel, squat all the way back down, and then stand up, and that's considered 1 rep.
Yeah.
Okay. So he has it right now programmed where the identified rep range that I'm looking for is somewhere between 6 to 10 reps of that on each leg. And then, like, for example, I know this week, I think that's going to go to an RIR of 1. So no more than 1 rep in the tank. At no point during this training cycle, and I think we're on the 3rd week of this training cycle, at no point when I've seen that 6 to 10 reps have I ever considered going to 10 reps on that movement. No.
I don't blame you.
No.
I mean, really, like, if you're going to do the math, 1.5 reps is really like, if you do 10, that's 15.
Exactly my point. Yeah. But I think about this study and the takeaway, and I think about something like, okay, if I were to use a lighter dumbbell, because I hold a dumbbell in one hand and then I'm holding onto the rack with the other hand for balance.
Yeah.
So if I were to use like a lighter dumbbell, like say for me, like for that particular movement, like a 50-pound dumbbell is like fairly light-ish for that. So if I was to use a 50-pound dumbbell for that, in order to get to the prescribed intensity or the prescribed level of fatigue, I would have to get closer to 10. I have 0% interest in that. Like free financing, 0% interest in getting to that particular level. So I think like I happily picked up like a 80 or 85 or something like that. Cause I was like, there's no way that I have any interest in doing that. And even when you think about from an efficiency standpoint, your workouts then take even that much longer.
Way too long.
They take that much longer. So now I was reading through the comments of the Instagram post, and if you're cool with it, you want to just put the Instagram post like in the show notes.
Yeah.
That physique one. I can send you the link for it. it, and in the comments, I think somebody had mentioned something like, yeah, but there's particular movements where I actually prefer that. And they were talking, and what I'm thinking is, for example, more of your accessory type pieces, like let's say something like a bicep curl, a tricep extension. And again, for folks that haven't listened to it, I do want to recommend like going back to the episode we did a couple of weeks ago or so, or a couple of episodes or so ago about hypertrophy, because I think that tends to be more like, and I think somebody even responded to that comment with like, yeah, but that's something where you're more like, you really want to feel the pump itself. And that's kind of chasing more of like, we talked about 3 different principles, and one of them is metabolic stress and kind of feeling the pump and feeling that shuttle of the nutrients or that blood flow, like kind of like feeling that pump, right? Then that's where the BFR, like the blood flow restriction, comes into play and stuff like that. So with those smaller muscle groups, you may want to do like that higher rep range. But again, I think that this study provides some additional information. I am certainly not ready to like hang my hat on five dudes. Who
None
did
of us
the
should
study.
hang our hat on 5 dudes.
No slam on these 5 dudes. I'm just saying, like, we also this is
They're
why
not representative.
Yeah, this is why I also think that it's helpful to get consideration for the study conditions and different things like that. Because what's also not mentioned, well, let me not say that. I was going to say what's also not mentioned is like nutritional protocol and stuff like that, but I didn't actually look at any of that stuff. But I do think that this is helpful in the conversation that I may have with a client where they're asking, well, which one is better or worse? And actually, one of my clients asked me, I think last week, she shot me a message that was like, I'm just kind of thinking, like, if we're identifying that I need to do, like, you gave me 8 to 12 reps for this particular movement, is it best that I do like the lighter weight so that I can get to the 12 reps, or that I do the heavier weight, but I'm going to be at 8 to 9 reps? And so we kind of worked through talking about like the double progression model and stuff like that. And even this was before me being aware of this particular study. With this particular client, one of the selling points, for lack of a better way to put it, of validating like how she was already doing it, because she's already really consistent, seeing the gains, like all that good stuff. One of the selling points was like, yo, do you really, like, if you can get the same effect from 8 to 9 reps that you could get from 10 to 12 reps or 12 to 15, do you have more time to spend training? Like, do you really want to continue to do that? And also the way that I look at it too is if you are doing the heavier weight at the lower rep range, and for reference, folks, I'm not talking like 2 to 3 reps. I'm talking somewhere like 6 to 8, 6 to 10, maybe somewhere around there. But if you're in that lower rep range there versus like 12 to 20, in theory, you're doing the lower rep range at heavier weight. You're likely getting stronger.
Yeah.
Because you got that heavier load. So I was like, well, we kind of get the best of both worlds here, because not only are you getting to the level of intensity that we're looking for, you're also doing it at a heavier load. So even though we're not specifically training for a certain rep max, you're already like getting used to loading. Like for her, it's like, gosh, I think she's at like 2.5 times her weight for a hip thrust at this point for reps. Like we're talking like 8 to 10 reps or something. Like, yeah, like something crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like she's maxed out all of the plates that she has, and she's bought plates at least once, maybe twice, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. She's hip thrusting like crazy. But yeah, I was just thinking about that. So yeah, I just think it's it was kind of a cool, interesting, study, especially like that perceived effort where you're just like, or the perceived fatigue that you get to. Yeah. I think about that psychologically too, like what sort of decisions you make when you just feel like you're just like spent Like you're just done.
Oh yeah. I feel like we talked about this earlier this year with my lifting. When I like wasn't following a program, I was just kind of doing like the same 2 workouts each week. And I feel like I talked about it, but like when I was tired, I'd be like, I'm doing lower reps and just going heavier. So that it's like, it's mentally easier for me to handle that. To be like, okay. It's the same thing with workouts too. Like if I have less reps in a workout, running workout, even if they're longer, that's mentally easier for me usually. Because it's like, I've only got 3 of these versus 6. Right. Even if it's like a mile versus a half mile, you know?
Yeah.
You don't know, but you get the gist.
I get what you're saying though. I was with you. I was riding with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have anything else on this one.
No.
I was one side thought that came to mind is, and this is totally random, but welcome to the world of my brain. You know, have you ever come across those posts where a coach, it's typically a coach, a trainer, let's say a trainer will say like, somebody was asking me why I haven't posted my workouts recently or something along those lines. And the response will be within the realm of, one of the reasons I don't post it is because I basically do the same thing all the time. Like you guys would just be bored. Like I don't do anything all that different. Like I follow and I agree with them in terms of the importance of having some repetition. But they basically are like, I follow a very structured training program. I do the same lifts pretty much on the same days. And I've done that. I do that for, 8, 12, 16 weeks, whatever it might be. Yeah. And the overall like theme is the reason I don't post it is because you guys would just get bored because that's just what I do. Right.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, well, yeah, you're right. People would probably get bored. And also, isn't that the reality of what we do? And maybe if we do post, like, man, I just noticed on Mondays, you're always posting that you're doing leg press. And on Tuesdays, you're doing this. Like, I know your routine. It's like, well, that's because I want to show that's the reality. Like, that's the rhythm. That's the routine. That's what I do. Like, I've been doing the same thing for a while. I'm not saying you can't ever switch it up, but it's like if we're trying to be trying to be the solution and we're part of the problem at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like if we're trying to sell people on the importance of repetition, but we're not posting the repetition because we feel like it wouldn't get much engagement and it'd be boring, then what are we doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think it's also
just a random thought I have.
Yeah, I think it's also like that's kind of a cop out because like I follow some Allie Ostrander, for example. She's a professional runner and she makes YouTube videos and I watch her YouTube videos and it's like every third one I feel like is like a day of training and it's always like a workout she's doing. It's like not the same workout each time, but it's usually like fast reps, Okay. And that never gets boring to watch, And you could argue like there's more variation in running workouts than strength workouts, but I think it is about like how you present it and then presenting other types of content in between that. Like if you only posted your workouts and they are the exact same every single week, sure, that might get boring. But the reality is a lot of us, me not included right now, are posting other things in between that. It's kind of like we've talked about like the different types of content, like educational versus storytelling,
entertainment, and
like you weave them all in, and then sure, in our minds, it's like, oh my god, I'm posting the same thing all the time. It's like, but you're not. There's like 2 other posts in front of it, 2 other after it before the next one comes, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like the way that you put that. Like for real, it's it's just I don't know. I just found it interesting because it just really struck me. Yeah, it struck me the other day because I had seen yet another person say that, and I was like, yeah, but Oh, snap. I think we're creating part of it. We're putting, it's like we're adding fuel to the fire that we're saying needs to be put out.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, that's just kind of weird. Yeah. Like shout out my friend Kylie. Like she posts in her stories, she posts like her lifts and it's the same lifts. Like, I know she's going to be doing like the chest press on the machine. I know she's going to be doing pull-ups. I know she's doing hip thrusts, like all that stuff. And just that consistency. Like and there's definitely ways, like if you're a coach or a trainer who's listening to this, who's just like, oh, well, okay, so I'm just going to, but that's boring. Okay. Well, find a way to bring others along in how you make it not boring for you. Mm-hmm. So like, how do you make it not boring? So if you're going to post, not that I'm certainly not a social media expert in any shape or form. I just think to myself though, what are different ways that I try to stay engaged in the same movement patterns and the same training over, like for me, it's usually like somewhere in the 6 to 8 week range. Typically I like to go closer to like 8 if possible. For me, it'll be like, okay, well, I'll switch up the playlist this time. Or, sometimes it's just maybe the warm up is a little bit different because I do like a couple of mobility things for warm up. So sometimes my creativity comes from in the warm up itself. Every now and then I'll switch like the equipment that I'm using for something. Like I've been RDLing, like how many years have I been posting RDLs at this point, But now I've switched over to trap bar RDLs instead of regular RDLs with the barbell, like how many years have I posted split squats? Like a lot of split squats, but sometimes it's with the safety bar and then sometimes it's with the dumbbell. So I think there's just ways that we can also promote like, repetition is not like the end of the world. And also still like, let's show the repetition and how we stay engaged in it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think that's a good note to close on.
I agree. All right. All right. Tell the folks where to find us.
If you don't already, follow us on Instagram at Lifting Running Living Pod. If you would like to reach out to us, you can do so there or at Gmail. Oh, what is our Gmail? liftingrunninglivingpod@gmail.com. I said that differently than I normally do, and I lost my place. Also, leave a rating and review. We would love that.
Word. All right. Well, thank you, folks, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Take care. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.